In the heart of Fort Liberty, North Carolina, there's a special breed of soldiers. I'm part of them, the 160th 3rd Battalion. But folks around these parts? They call us the Night Stalkers. Some say it's the almost supernatural talent of our pilots that earned us that name. I'm not yet one of those revered pilots. Still in training, my role is simpler but equally dangerous. A door gunner, perched on our beast of a chopper, a majestic CH-47. My job? To ensure we're covered when our bird kisses hostile ground and when we take to the skies again. Before this role, I had worn another badge of honor, that of the Green Berets, a distinction reserved for the finest in unconventional warfare. My years with the Special Forces taught me resilience, strategy, and the value of a life. Those experiences, battling in the shadows and training indigenous forces, honed my instincts. Now, aboard this chopper, those skills are tested in a different theater. But the heart of a Green Beret still beats within me, reminding me of the oath I took and the promises I intend to keep. Just last week, my close-knit platoon, 5 of us, including the pilot, the crew chief, the gunners, were summoned urgently to our home base. This wasn't routine. We were being placed on standby. A standby for home soil operations, that is. Now that may sound tame, but trust me, these homeland missions aren't about parades or ceremonies. We're talking about swooping in amidst a rain of bullets, dropping off SWAT teams into hellish situations. It's a lot more intense and frequent than I had ever imagined. Walking into the briefing room, an unexpected sight greeted us. The very team we'd be transporting, a group of rugged Navy SEALs. Now, most of these SEALs, they're talkers, always trading wild tales of covert ops. But one among them sat brooding, silent, an oddity. I nudged a buddy, nodding at the quiet man. "Who's that? Never seen a SEAL so contemplative." A smirk touched the lips of a nearby SEAL. "That's Cole, and he ain't a SEAL." Curious, I pressed on. "Then who or what is he?" The SEAL leaned in, a twinkle in his eye. "If I told you, I'd have to end you." And with that, he erupted into laughter. It felt off, forced even. Before we could ponder further about Cole, the atmosphere in the room changed dramatically. A liaison from the Pentagon, with grave seriousness, began detailing our mission. An unidentified aircraft, codenamed Orient Threat, had just made an unprecedented flight, traversing from northern Mexico to Vancouver, before crash landing deep in the evergreen forests, all in the span of an hour. Was that even possible? The implications were catastrophic. An unidentified aircraft over American soil could be harboring anything, even a nuclear weapon. As tension between our government and Canada reached its zenith, it was decided. We were going in. As we made our way to Fairchild Air Force Base, I couldn't help but wonder if these SEALs, especially the mysterious Cole, had more knowledge about this mission than they let on. As we flew, the drone of the chopper seemed a tad quieter than usual. The jock-like SEAL beside me was a towering figure, standing at an impressive 6'4". I turned to him, curiosity burning. "Know anything about the mission or that quiet guy, Cole?" He chuckled. "You think we're privy to something special? We're as clueless as you." The air between us grew cold, the silence stretching on. He finally broke it with a surprising confession. "About Cole? Since our rendezvous at Little Creek, he's been like this. Distant, not a SEAL. He's from one of those shadowy 3-letter agencies, and not the one you're thinking of." My mind raced. So, this plane, Cole's involvement, it's all connected. Someone, somewhere, knows more than they're sharing. Before the conversation could continue, the announcement came, crisp and clear. "Salamander Squadron 160, welcome to Fairchild. Get your gear ready in 60. The swift movements after landing were a blur. Into the barracks, a quick meal, a faster shower, and then straight to our bird. We prepped the CH-47. Unlike most choppers, this one was flexible. We had to familiarize ourselves with any adjustments the previous crew had made. As we made our final pre-flight checks, GoPros were attached to us. Whatever we were headed into, it was important. The SEALs suited up. We downed caffeine-packed beverages, the taste lingering as we settled in. In the hold, I swear I could hear the haunting tones of some suspense-filled film score playing. The heady mix of excitement, adrenaline, and anticipation was palpable. We were about to dive into the kind of covert operations you read about in novels. 2 hours of flight lay ahead. Talking was a futile effort. The chopper's noise drowned everything. The SEALs, accustomed to such flights, seemed to drift into their thoughts, some dozing, others lost in music. And Cole? There he was, engrossed in his phone, swiping away. Probably some mindless game, I mused. But then, the call sounded. Overlord, T-15 from LZ, all crew to your stations. My heart raced as we prepped. The looming blackness outside was impenetrable. Even my night vision goggles struggled. As the ramp descended, I spotted tall Tony, a friend from my Afghanistan days. Knowing this might be our last shared moment for a while, I shouted over the noise, "Stay safe, Tony. Make sure you don't miss the pickup." The ramp lifted, sealing the SEALs in the unknown darkness below. We took to the skies, the return flight always more fraught with danger. Any hostile who had spotted our drop-off would be prepared for our exit, but we sliced through the night seamlessly. Back at Fairchild, we learned our SEAL team had set some sort of record. The mission, whatever it was, had been executed swiftly. We'd remain here, on standby, awaiting the call for extraction. The nature of the mission remained a mystery, but one thing was for sure. This wasn't any ordinary operation. For a moment, a mere blink in the span of eternity, our world was bathed in normality. We reveled in it. 5 men and a woman, strangers by most counts, united by circumstance and the roles we'd assumed. The splendors of Washington surrounded us, a paid leave that tasted of brief civilian joys, away from the rigid discipline of our military life. The digital clock on the wall seemed almost innocent as it marked noon on the second day. But innocence was a luxury we couldn't afford. The radio sparked to life, filling the room with static and the muffled voice of desperation. The distorted voice cried out, its every syllable an eerie blend of urgency and fear. Words like Crimson Cobra, urgent extraction, and Fairchild punched through the interference. I could feel the shared tension in the room, a knot in our collective stomachs. The voice was a fading lifeline, its plea a stark reminder of our reality, one where the battlefield was ever shifting and enemies lurked in every shadow. Within moments, Fairchild transformed from a place of temporary respite to a hornet's nest of activity. Alarm bells screamed their shrill warning, echoing through the corridors. A quick reaction force, QRF, a group of men and women trained for rapid deployment in emergencies, were assembled with a precision that was both admirable and terrifying. There was no time for the lumbering CH-47. Only the agile UH-60 Blackhawk would do. Our mission was clear: to retrieve our brothers from the jaws of danger. As the helicopter soared, the world below looked serene and untouched. Washington's winter had cloaked the land in a thick blanket of snow, rendering the rugged terrain almost celestial. But that beauty was deceptive, hiding tales of conflict and bloodshed. Memories of my time in Afghanistan, of friends lost and battles fought, surged to the forefront, each recollection sharp, edged with emotion. The biting cold was a fierce adversary, clawing through my gear, trying to weaken my resolve. Our formation, a formidable army of UH-60s and little birds, painted an intimidating picture against the gray skies. With every heartbeat, the landing zone grew closer. The weight of the machine gun, cold and unyielding under my grip, was a testament to the reality we were diving headfirst into. The battleground revealed itself in a patchwork of destruction. The tree line, once a guardian of nature's secrets, now bore the scars of violent skirmishes. Fallen trees, grenade-induced craters, and that damnable slope, which looked like it had been torn straight out of Dante's Inferno. With deft maneuvers, our bird oriented itself, granting me an unobstructed view of the ravaged slope. The moment our skids touched the frostbitten ground, the QRF sprang into action, a fluid tide of motion and purpose advancing towards the tree line. Gunfire, sharp and echoing, was the only dialogue now. My focus sharpened, narrowing down on potential threats, providing the crucial cover our assault team required to reclaim the land. In that twilight of bullets and resolve, we stood unwavering, bound by duty and the unspoken promise to leave no man behind. The earth convulsed, shaking our very bones. Stray bullets, the metallic harbingers of chaos, ricocheted off the slope at the tree line's crest. Like the slow crescendo of a tragic symphony, the once sturdy slope buckled under the onslaught, pulling timber giants with it in a reluctant embrace, thus erasing my line of sight. For a fraction of a heartbeat, the world stood still. And then, chaos, a haunting quietude settled. It was a sort of lull that fills the air when the strings of destiny snap taut and future courses are irreparably altered. I felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on me, realizing the enemy had grasped the silence, deciphering our vulnerability. It was the kind of silence that feels heavier than any sound. Our assault team, cognizant of the same, curtailed their fusillade. Half of them, with precision and stealth, broke away, weaving their way through the treacherous path to reconnoiter. The return signal was a void, an abyss of unknowing. There was no trace of the adversary. No sooner had the silence descended, the rhythmic thud of the CH-47's rotors filled the air. Like ants responding to a pheromone trail, 20 soldiers flowed from its belly, erecting communication nodes with practiced hands. This rugged patch of land, kissed by snow and tainted with uncertainty, was now christened as our Forward Operating Base, FOB. It was here we'd rally, striving to solve the enigma of our vanished brethren. Compelled by curiosity and the faint hope of finding a lead, I began examining the grenade craters. The shards left behind often sang tales of their origins. If these fragments bore the marks of the enemy, it might provide us a breadcrumb trail. But as fate would have it, the plot thickened. What we found were our own, unmistakably from the missing squadron. As the sun's arc waned, a second CH-47 heralded the arrival of the battlespace analysts and forensics team. Their presence amplified the severity of our situation, and it wasn't long before the whole area was swathed in caution tapes, with every inch being documented. But it was the revelation about the squadron's GPS that sent shivers down our spines. This wasn't just a border skirmish, it was a jigsaw puzzle with pieces scattered globally. Some pinged from the cold reaches of Russia, one from the tempestuous Indian Ocean, and yet one more had met a destructive end. The eerie silence that followed was punctuated only by the unspoken dread that our comrades may have met a fate worse than death. As the night's cloak enveloped us, an aircraft roared overhead, laying bare another piece of this bewildering jigsaw. A cutting-edge Russian prototype, a bird of war whose presence in these skies was as much an enigma as its stealth capabilities. Our own SR-71's prowess was legendary, but this was a counterpart we hadn't foreseen. The pilot's fate, however, was a chilling testament to nature's unforgiving wrath. The inhospitable cold claimed him before conflict could. The ensuing hours saw the FOB grow, its population swelling with experts and specialists from myriad disciplines. As cots mushroomed around the base, we caught wind of political currents shifting. GPS coordinates near the Alaskan border made it clear. Russia had been playing with fire, a misstep in the great dance of geopolitical posturing. The U.S. didn't take kindly to unsanctioned flyovers, and retaliation loomed large. As I nestled into my cot, the day's revelations weighed heavy. But in the unforgiving wilderness, the ethos remained: endure, adapt, and overcome. Tomorrow would be another day, another step closer to unraveling the truth. The cold, bureaucratic indifference of high command was as chilling as the icy winds that bit at our faces. Lives had been lost, brothers in arms gone, yet the priorities seemed firmly skewed toward strategic gains. A selected team of pilots, escorted by shadowy operatives from those clandestine agencies that have been whispered about in dimly lit bars, was quickly formed. The escort fleet? A squadron of menacing UH-60s, those black birds of war. By a twist of fate, or perhaps by design, I found myself aboard one of them. The journey felt interminable. Over 8 hours of flying over what could best be described as nature's forsaken realms. If Orient Threat's location was a testament to desolation, this was its overlord. The vast, barren expanse stretched infinitely, challenging the CH-47's prowess, almost pushing the boundaries of its known limits. But it wasn't the journey's duration that gnawed at my insides. It was the looming dread. An oppressive heaviness seemed to hang in the air, an anticipation of a revelation no man would wish to witness. And as the icy plateau came into view, that foreboding became reality. The tableau before us was macabre, a chilling display of brutality. The mutilated forms of our fallen brethren, naked and marred, lay strewn across the pristine snow like grotesque sculptures, their faces twisted in agony but eerily preserved. We gathered them, our brothers, with a reverence that the hallowed deserve. The wounds, the ghastly incisions, seemed not just the work of men, but of something more sinister. The grim tableau offered a jarring contradiction. The desecration of the bodies juxtaposed against the near-pristine surroundings, undisturbed save for those crimson gashes marring the pure white. The journey back to the forward operating base, once buzzing with activity, was now subdued. My own heart was a cacophony of grief, and I'll admit tears streamed unabated. An emotional deluge few could stave off. As we descended, I noticed the base had nearly emptied, its lifeblood drained, with only a smattering of personnel left. The surrounding woods, which had once held so much promise of answers, now lay silent and indifferent. The forensics team was finishing its grim work, and all of us were eager to leave this forsaken land. News reached us of the lone GPS found in the Indian Ocean. Its solitary beeping, devoid of its human companion, seemed like the cruel mockery of hope. The subsequent days were an ethereal haze, with grief, shock, and the surreal nature of events clouding my senses. Every face around me mirrored the same anguish, the same unanswered questions. A shadowy veil seemed to envelop the whole incident. Operation Grey Fox, as it came to be known, was sealed with medals and accolades, but also with a shroud of silence. But within me, a fire was kindled. Grief morphed into a seething rage. Fairchild, that familiar land, held secrets, whispers in dark corridors, furtive glances, cryptic conversations. The Salamander Squadron deserved more than medals. They deserved the truth. And come hell or high water, I was determined to unearth it. The truth was out there, concealed within the maze of Fairchild, and I was going to navigate its twists and turns. The weight of the task ahead was formidable, but the weight of inaction, that was something I could not bear. I would uncover the truth, for them, for me, for all of us who had lost a piece of ourselves on that icy plateau. And to you, dear reader, I promise to keep you updated, hoping that the next time I write, I have answers, not just more questions.